Hi, welcome back to another installment of Chelsea and Jay reread Lagan series by Michael Grant. If you found this because you typed Lagan by Michael Grant into the YouTube search bar, or you found this on Tumblr, I'm very active on Tumblr right now. First of all, say hi. I have not met many people who knew what the Lagan series was, so it would be great to make more friends. And also, I think you should be fine. I think we can catch you up really quick on what's happening. That being said, previously on Chelsea and Jay Read Gone by Michael Grant, in our last video, we read the first 200 pages. We met a slew of characters, and it's totally okay if you don't remember their names because I have a surprise for you. 1 second. Okay. So I understand that a bunch of random names on sticky notes is not the most helpful, which is why we got pictures. We got pictures, fam. I'm very excited to debut these to you. I reached out to a bunch of artists on Tumblr who had previously drawn fan art for the Gone series, and I asked for permission to include their artwork in their video. So we are going to put some names to these sticky notes. The artists will be linked down below, and if you find this on Tumblr, my DMs are still open. If you have fan art, feel free to message me at any time. So let's meet these characters. First, on the Good Boys team, we got our hero, Sam. Yeah, that's far. All right, we're going to scoot, and it's going to be totally fine. 1 second. Oh, okay. I kind of like this. Hold on. I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of fucking cute. I think it looks silly, but really cute. Okay, so up first we got Sam. Sam is this boy right here. Sam is our main character. He's kind of your classic reluctant hero type boy, but he kind of lucks into being one of the most powerful kids in this new world. Because if you remember, some of the kids in this world have superpowers, and Sam is one of the most superpowered of them all. Sam has the ability to shoot green lasers out of his hands, and that will come into play real soon. And on his left here, this is Astrid. Astrid is also known as Astrid the Genius because she's very book smart. She is also Sam's love interest in this world. And this right here is her brother, Little Pete. Little Pete is going to be important later, so just put a pin in that. Additionally, I'll mention this later, but Little Pete is also autistic. And just like to preface, like, his autism plays a big role in this story, but it's also not handled as well as it could be, and that's something that I do plan on like discussing in detail, just not in this video. Next up we have Quinn. Find your light, Quinn. There we go. So this is Quinn. Quinn was Sam's best friend. You'll see in a hot second why that is past tense. Also, I don't think you can see it on the camera, but Quinn's shirt says, "Sounds gay, I'm in." And I don't recall Quinn having an interest in other men, but I am not mad about that interpretation. I have no problem with that. And finally, rounding up the good guys, this is Edilio. He's Honduran. We mentioned him last week because there were some racist comments made against him, and overall, Michael Grant's choice to essentially make him a walking stereotype was not a good one. Unfortunately, Edilio is not going to be mentioned much in this recap, but he is going to be a big part of the series overall. So I encourage you to remember his name. He is a fan favorite. Show me a Gone fan who wouldn't die for Edilio, because there isn't one. But yes, that's our main man, Edilio, rounding out the good guys side. Up next, we got the antagonist, the evil crew. Who are we gonna meet there? So first up, we got Caine. I didn't like manage to license a picture for Caine, but honestly I just picture Sam but in a sweater vest, so like I don't know, like just repurpose that picture in your brain. Don't worry about it. So Caine is our big baddie of this book. He is the self-appointed mayor of the FAYZ. He just wants to rule, he just wants power, and currently Sam is the one thing standing in his way of keeping it. By the way, I forgot to mention this earlier. Caine also has superpowers. Caine has the power telekinesis. More on that later. Next up is Diana. Let's find your light, Diana. So Diana is one of Caine's number twos. She's also his love interest. Like, she's going for a young femme fatale type of energy. She's aloof, she's manipulative. She is also 14 years old. So let's also like keep that front of mind as we picture her, but she's basically going for like an aloof woman who manipulates men type of energy. We also had Drake. So Drake is another one of Caine's cronies. He's evil. He's a sadist, and he really enjoys being the worst, and you will see that prominently throughout this reread. And finally, to round out the bad guys, oh, that one focused real quick. And finally, to round out the bad guys, we have Computer Jack. So Computer Jack is just kind of like a wholesome, nerdy fella. You know, he currently works for Caine and the other baddies. He is kind of just like a timid boy. Computer Jack, as you can tell by the name, is very good at techie stuff. That's not going to come into play right now. But he is a character that I introduced in the last video, so I just wanted to put a face to the sticky note since I had one. Woo, we did it! Okay, but yes, so we have met all the characters, and I know that you can't see the board from this far away, but I like it. I think we should be proud of it. And I would say also, if you're just like one of my friends who is supporting me in everything I do, I would say you don't need to remember all these characters' names right now. You know, like, it's not a test. This is just a helpful guide. There will be more opportunities for these names and faces and sticky notes to sink in. With that in mind, let's jump into the plot, the main event. To set the stage, in these 100 pages, Sam and Caine's beef is going to come to a head, and this is going to be our main good versus evil conflict for the rest of this series. Will Chelsea warm up to Gon, or will she sway me into disliking it? Will it be a healthy mix of the two? Questions to be answered. I'm very excited. And now it is time to cut to past Jay and past Chelsea.
Overall, how did you feel about this 100 pages?
I like this 100 pages. Action-packed. Chapter 20 starts with like the confirmation, because I think I ended the last video saying like I think they're related. I mean, technically it doesn't confirm it, because I'm like, I don't know, the birth certificate doesn't confirm it, but it's assumed because they have the same birthday and Sam is born 6 minutes ahead. I mean, it could just be a weird coincidence. They don't know for sure. Like, the birth certificate doesn't, which I feel like it would. Well, actually, I don't know if birth certificates say that you're a twin or not. But yes, that's where it started. And then from there, it just like went crazy with kidnapping Astrid and little Pete. And I called Quinn. I said it. He's going to the dark side. He didn't stay very long though. Although, honestly, I will say I was a little disappointed that no one died. I know that sounds dark, but I feel like that, especially, okay, where are we physically in the book? Are we halfway through the book?
We are, we're about here. So this is how much we read, and this is how much we have left. So we're like, it looks like halfway, a little more than halfway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I were writing, the halfway point would have been a good turning point where our hero has to now wrestle with the fact that he's killed someone in this world.
That's an interesting thing for me to keep in mind as well. So there's like a high death toll in Gon, but I'm not sure like how many people Sam specifically has killed.
Okay, but he will kill.
Yeah.
It's less about death than it is about killing. The first time someone murders somebody, it changes everything. At the same time, I do feel like if I were like 14, and this is for 14-year-olds, like, I feel like, yeah, maybe grappling with death may have been a little too much at that point in the book. Ooh, that just would have been so cool if he like started like killing too many people in the name of like survival or getting to Caine, and then he realizes he's just as bad as Caine. I don't know.
I will await your spin-off retelling.
I almost did, because I was so angry.
You still could. You could absolutely rewrite it.
I mean, she could. We could. We could rewrite the Gone series by Michael Grant Chelsea. But that is another venture for another time. Also, I'm not gonna lie, I am not as confident about that yes as I was in the moment because I'm going through the Rolodex in my brain and I cannot think of a single person that Sam has killed personally. You know, I remember the Gone series being real gory. However, it was a lot of superficial gore. It was a lot of characters we didn't know very well who got killed off in gory ways. Like, I don't know, that's going to be an interesting development. Stay tuned. But yes, I wanted to jump in here. I'm going to be doing this more often than to give you the play-by-play for each kind of like big scene. So we open with Sam, Astrid, and Little Pete being kidnapped by a couple of low-ranking bullies and Quinn, Sam's best friend. I know, you're not gonna like Quinn in book 1, you're gonna hate him. So yes, Sam, Astrid, and Little Pete are brought to City Hall where Caine has like unofficially holed up. Sam is left with Caine, and Astrid and Little Pete are taken into another room with Drake, who is Caine's number 2. Caine gives his big monologue. He just lays out a lot of helpful exposition for the audience. He basically says, hey, I know that you're one of the most powerful people here, which makes you my biggest rival. Also, we're brothers.
Caine is just, I cannot even with Caine.
I'm like very into it. He's theatrical and he's living it up.
You brought this up before. It's so funny to reimagine this and realize they're 15 years old. This child is just going off of on an evil tangent like he's Dr. Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb, and I'm just such a little baby.
Yeah. I do like that they call it out, like when he was like biting his thumbnail while sitting in the big chair. It's like you just look like a child trying to sit in their dad's throne or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
I also want to say that I don't understand Caine's plan.
Okay.
That's one thing, because I do like Caine a lot. I don't get the plan of keeping Sam. Like, he knows his birthday, so like Sam going 6 minutes ahead isn't going to teach him anything. I feel like there's other people who are pooping away that like he could, if he wanted to run tests or ask questions or like, I don't know, figure out how not to disappear. I mean, I understand it from a political perspective,
yeah,
but from a personal perspective, I don't understand what he thinks he's going to do or achieve.
That's a good point. I didn't realize the intent to keep Sam hostage was just to observe him on his birthday. We'll learn more about like what happens when you poof out of the FAYZ in these next 100 pages. Yeah, it's weird that Caine was going to just keep Sam hostage because the better move is just to kill Sam.
See, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, the better move is to kill him because he has all the information that he needs. And like, I understand like trying to torture him for more information, but again, like, I mean, unless the father's name, which they talked about, if figuring out who their father is really answers all the questions, which it could, but I wouldn't think like our dad, he's someone special. We just need to figure out who he is.
Caine also has that Lord Voldemort type hubris where I feel like Caine like thinks that he has a ways to keep Sam like as a compliant hostage, even though he's a powerful person also.
I mean, I'm assuming because they keep bringing up the father and the birth certificate, like obviously he's gonna play a role.
My memory of Sam and Caine's father is fuzzy, so I'm looking forward to discovering that along with you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm intrigued.
Mm-hmm. But then in the middle of his big monologue, Drake comes in, panicked, and he's like, "Where are they?" And Caine's like, "What?" Like apparently Astrid and Little Pete have disappeared, and they realize that it has to have been Little Pete, and he has to have been powerful. And I love this part because Diana is actually worried. So she says, the only time we saw teleporting was Taylor up at Coates, and she could only go across a room. She was a 3. If this kid could teleport himself and his sister through walls, he could be a 4. And then they realize he could be more than a 4, because we know what like little Pete can do easily way more than that. So it's like, oh, this system of 1 to 4, and like little Pete just breaks the scale.
Yeah.
I love
Well,
that.
what's so interesting, because I have so many thoughts about that whole chapter, but we'll start with little Pete. What's interesting is not even just the power level, it's that so far we've seen him have multiple different types of power. Like the first thing that we see is him choking Sam, which is what Caine can do. So now I'm like, I mean, yeah, he's clearly very powerful, but what exactly are his powers? Like, yeah, that to me is really, really interesting. I'm also a little surprised. Oh, no. She does have powers, but she's like Astrid only has like, she's like a 2.
Yeah, she's a 2. She doesn't have any powers that are visible. I don't really, honestly, it doesn't come up again. I don't really understand why Michael Grant did that to her.
So she always has to be saved by either little Pete or Sam.
Yeah, it's a little, yeah.
I will write it off as she's so smart, she doesn't need power. She uses her brain. But I do think it's kind of funny that I initially put the book down because I'm like, superpowers? No. Too far. And now I'm like, where are the superpowers?
Yeah, you can't just like introduce superpowers and then just ignore it for like how long he's been ignoring it.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's a lot of talk about superpowers without actually there being superpowers. And that's like, I feel like I'm watching the made for TV movie version of this where they didn't have the budget to show it. So they just talk about it a lot. I'm like, it's a book. You have the power to show it. Do it.
Yeah, so at this point, the audience knew that Lil Pete was a ball of superpowers, but Caine, Drake, and Diana did not. And how they found out about this, we actually have to set the scene for what was happening with Astrid and Lil Pete when they were being held prisoner by Drake. So while Caine was monologuing to Sam, Astrid and Lil Pete were with Drake in another room.
I hated reading the scene where Drake makes Astrid into. I hated that.
That was rough.
It was rough. If you've read Gone, you know exactly the scene I'm talking about. So additional context, Little Pete is autistic. And Drake in the scene, kind of like illustrating like his lack of empathy and kind of like in his enjoyment of inflicting harm on other people, makes Astrid use a slur against Little Pete. Astrid obviously doesn't want to do this, but Drake is obviously intimidating her, and he even slaps her at one point. And in this moment, like Little Pete, like perhaps sensing Astrid's duress, teleports them out of the room into safety. Again, it's a cringy scene to read, but it is in line with Drake's character. However, Michael Grant's portrayal of autism is not great. It feels similar to like his portrayal of Edilio and racism, where like Edilio has to deal with characters being racist towards him, which is not great to read. However, they're made worse by the fact that Edilio is also a walking Latino stereotype. And just based on like my initial like Googlings, like this seems to be what's happening with Little Pete. This is something I'm still researching for a future video, so I am tiptoeing around the discussion because I don't want to say something incorrect. Just from some initial research, you know, autism manifests in different ways, but a lot of characteristics about Little Pete are, one, unusual, and two, seem to be very convenient for the plot and for like storytelling purposes. That's currently what I've found, and I am looking forward to exploring more and developing my thoughts more on that front. Planning on doing a whole video about the problematic things in Gone because there are a lot of them, and I want to be able to give them like the space that they deserve.
Okay, so this is all I had in terms of like points I wanted to cover. Like, do you have anything else or any like?
I mean, the main thing was I wanted someone to die.
Yeah.
I wanted Sam to have to murder someone.
Yeah, you wanted Sam to kill someone.
I'd like to see Sam's powers. I'd like to see more people with powers. I would like to see a little bit more about Diana and Caine's relationship because they did mention like Sam has that moment where he realizes that Caine's in love with Diana. So yeah, I would like to just kind of see her perspective because I do have a feeling that, which could be completely wrong and probably not in this book, but I have a feeling Diana's going to go to Sam's side because I think she already has a crush on him.
You think that she can crush on Sam?
I guess that's a no. I'll take that as no. Well, she was just like, when she was talking to Astrid, she's like, oh, you love him because he's cute and brave and blah, blah, blah. And like, obviously she was like being sarcastic, but I'm also like, but you can acknowledge it. Yeah. And clearly like powerful men are being around powerful men. So, and you know, Caine's a crazy pants.
Yeah.
So it works for your benefit now, but I could see you being led to the light.
The light side.
The side of light. The Lord of Light. There you go. Okay. Enjoy the rest of your day, though.
You too.
Bye-bye.
And so the story continues. So it's really fun for me to revisit these recordings in editing because it's so interesting to see what Chelsea chooses to focus on. As someone who's read this book multiple times, I'm almost normalized to certain things, like Caine's plan to keep Sam hostage. Like, at the time, I thought, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, Caine. You can absolutely keep Mr. Sunbeam Laser Hands hostage in City Hall. Just throw him in the dungeon. I'm sure they have one of those. I will never be able to read this book like from a fresh perspective. So it's nice to like have Chelsea here, and it's very fun. I personally am having a great time with her, and I hope you are too. Also, setting up for next week, one of the things that Chelsea foreshadowed is that Sam and Caine have a birthday coming up. Their 15th birthday is coming up, and if you'll remember, that's a big deal because the book opens with everyone over the age of 15 disappearing, and we don't know what happens when you turn 15 in this world. Do you disappear? If so, does that mean dying? Is there a way to stop it? These are questions that will be explored more in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I cannot wait to see you in the next video. Okay. Hi, it's VoiceOver J. I really appreciate you, the viewers, but there are 3 people that I appreciate just a little bit more, and it is the artists who gave their blessing for me to showcase their artwork for this video. So shout out to Charlie at ABJLK, FAYZ Art 136, and Gone SERIES-ORCHID. You are all amazing, and I hope to showcase more fellow fan artists in future videos. Please show these accounts some love. I've linked them all in the description below. But yes, that's all I have for you right now. Thanks so much again. I will see you all in the next video.